I was 6 days away from getting married when I realized I didn't recognize the woman sleeping next to me, not because she'd changed overnight, but because I finally saw her clearly. And once you see something like that, you don't unsee it before we can go any further. If you've ever trusted someone completely, if you've ever believed loyalty was automatic, if you've ever defended someone who didn't deserve it, hit subscribe, tap like, and stay until the end, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about what happens when silence finally speaks. The email had no subject line. That's the only reason I opened it. No flashy warning, no dramatic headline, just one sentence sitting alone in my inbox at 11:47 p.m. You deserve to know who you're about to marry. No greeting, no name, no explanation, just a link. I remember leaning back in my chair, loosening my tie, rolling my neck like I'd been doing all night. I was still at the office, surrounded by vendor contracts and seating charts for a wedding. Everyone kept calling the event of the year my wedding. I told myself it was spam, a scam, a jealous ex, some bored troll who found our wedding website. I hovered over the link, then I clicked it. That single click split my life cleanly in two. The page that loaded wasn't flashy. No branding, no logo, just a plain black screen with a single login field. Password required. I stared at it longer than I want to admit. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my heart beating just a little too fast for something I was still telling myself didn't matter. Then, almost without thinking, I typed in our wedding date. Enter. The page unlocked instantly. No loading animation, no delay, just a folder. Inside it, 47 minutes of video footage, timestamped, labeled Las Vegas 3 weeks earlier. I should have closed it. I didn't. My name is Daniel Brooks. At the time, I was 6 days away from marrying Madison Clark. Madison was everything people admired on sight. Beautiful in a way that made rooms pause. Charming without trying. Raised in the right circles with the right last name. Her family liked to say she had presence. Old money, Connecticut. Country clubs with rules you didn't question. I believed all of it. I believed her. The video opened on a hotel suite. Wide angle. Fixed corner. Professional quality. There was a room service receipt on the counter. The name printed clearly enough that I paused the video and zoomed in. Blackout Suite 1803. Cute. Around 11:06 p.m., the first man arrived. Tall. Athletic. Tattoos climbing up his arm like they had something to prove. One of the bridesmaids opened the door and pulled him inside, while the others clapped. Clapped. Like this was entertainment. Madison was already there, already unsteady, laughing too loud. Her white bride tube sash crooked across her chest. She didn't look surprised. She looked excited. Glasses kept appearing in her hand, always refilled by someone else, always encouraged. By 12:47 a.m., another man arrived. Different face, different build, same reaction. Cheers. Phones raised. Someone yelling encouragement. By 1:30 there were more, and that's when I noticed her. Lauren Hayes, the maid of honor, Madison's best friend since kindergarten. Lauren wasn't just there. She was directing. She controlled the music, the drinks, the mood. At one point she lifted her champagne flute and shouted something. I didn't need audio to understand. Last night of freedom. You don't need sound to read lips. Madison laughed. Not nervously, not uncertainly, like she'd won something. The camera angles never changed. That's what made my stomach turn. Fixed corners, hallway shots, time codes burned into every frame. This wasn't someone filming for memories. This was documentation. Someone wanted this recorded. Around 3:02 a.m. there was a knock at the door. A hotel manager, middle-aged, uniform wrinkled, face exhausted in a way you only get from dealing with entitled people too long. Lauren got right in his space, finger jabbing his chest, laughing when he backed off. The entitlement in that moment was louder than anything sound could have added. Rules didn't apply here. Not to them. By the end of the footage, the suite looked like a war zone. Empty bottles everywhere, furniture out of place, trash overflowing. Madison was passed out on the couch, makeup smeared, sash still on. Phone clutched in her hand like a trophy. The video ended, just like that. No dramatic fade. Dot. I sat alone in my office for 20 minutes after it stopped. No tears, no yelling, just silence. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Madison. Can't wait for Saturday. I love you so much. I looked at the screen, then back at the frozen image on my monitor. Her, smiling, a stranger's hands resting on her waist. I saved the video. 3 places. Cloud. External drive. Encrypted folder at work. Then I opened a blank document. And I started typing. Facts. Dates. Times. Names. I didn't call anyone. I didn't confront her. I did what I've always done when something matters. I gathered information. The wedding invitation was still on my desk. Thick cardstock. Gold embossing, together with their families. Madison Clark and Daniel Brooks requested the honor of your presence. Her parents' names printed like a seal of approval. $500,000 already spent. 300 guests confirmed. My phone buzzed again. Just finished my final dress fitting. You're going to lose your mind when you see me. I typed back exactly what she expected. I can't wait. You're going to be stunning. That night, while Madison slept peacefully beside me, believing everything was perfect, I opened a new browser tab and searched annulment attorneys, asset protection before marriage. Not because I knew what I was going to do, but because I knew one thing for certain. The man who opened that email would not be the same man standing at the altar. I woke up before my alarm. The room still dark. Madison asleep beside me, breathing slow and even. Her hair spread across the pillow like nothing in the world could touch her. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet, realizing how little you really know someone until the illusion cracks. She shifted, smiled in her sleep, murmured my name. That sound used to ground me. That morning it felt rehearsed. I slid out of bed without waking her, put on running shoes, and ran 5 miles through empty streets, lungs burning, thoughts sharpening with every step. Anger tried to rise. I pushed it down. Anger clouds judgment. I needed clarity. When I got back, showered, and made coffee, I'd already decided one thing. Nothing about my routine would change. Not yet. Madison came into the kitchen glowing, wrapped in one of my shirts. She kissed my cheek and started talking. Seating charts. Floral tweaks. Her mother stressing. Lauren having everything under control. Lauren. The name landed differently now. I nodded, smiled, laughed at the right moments. It felt like acting in a play where I suddenly knew the ending, but still had to finish the scene. That day blurred together. Vendor walkthroughs, calls from relatives flying in early, texts from friends joking about freedom ending. I answered everything calmly. Internally, I was cataloging behavior. Every glance, every word, every casual lie that slid past unnoticed before. That night, after Madison fell asleep scrolling through photos on her phone, I went back to my office and watched the footage again. Slower. This time I noticed things I'd missed. The way Madison checked the room when she thought no one was watching. The way Lauren leaned in to whisper, always smiling, always steering. The way the other bridesmaids treated it all like a show put on just for them. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. I paused the video on a frame of Madison laughing, head thrown back, completely unbothered by who might see. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt distance, like I was watching someone I used to know. The next few days settled into a strange rhythm. Madison was affectionate, attentive, glowing with anticipation. She kept saying how lucky she was, how safe she felt with me, how excited she was to marry someone solid. I gave her exactly the reassurance she wanted. Consistency disarms suspicion. At night, while she slept, I worked. Quietly, methodically. Financial documents, contracts, timelines. Knowledge is leverage, and leverage is safety. Midweek, I had lunch with her parents, Robert and Susan Clark, pillars of their community. hosts of the ceremony at their estate. Robert clapped me on the back, thanked me for being steady. Susan held my hands and told me she'd always hoped Madison would marry a man with principles. I told her I believed deeply in accountability. She smiled like I'd said something profound that evening. Lauren came over unannounced, heels clicking, phone already in hand. She hugged me too tightly, smiled too broadly, joked about how Madison had been wild on the bachelorette trip. I watched her carefully. She never held my eyes for more than a second. People who know they're hiding something never do. When she left, Madison asked if everything was okay. I told her it was perfect. I told Madison everything was perfect. She believed me. That's the thing about people who are used to being in control. They mistake calm for compliance. They think silence means agreement. They assume that if you're not reacting, you're not seeing. Lauren left that night with her heels clicking confidently down the front steps, phone already glowing in her hand as if she were reporting back to someone. Madison lingered by the door, arms folded loosely, watching me with that familiar expression, half affection, half assessment. Lauren's just stressed, she said lightly. You know how she gets when she's in charge. I nodded. She's doing a great job. Madison smiled, relieved. Approval mattered to her, not because she needed it, but because she expected it. We went to bed shortly after. She curled into me, warm and trusting, her breathing settling into that slow, even rhythm that used to make me feel chosen. That night I barely slept, not because my mind was racing, but because it was working. On Thursday morning, I woke before my alarm again. Madison was still asleep, one arm thrown across my chest. Her face relaxed in a way that suggested peace, certainty, safety. I studied her features carefully, the curve of her mouth, the way her brow smoothed when she slept, the subtle confidence even in rest. There were no cracks there, no guilt etched into her expression, no shadow of doubt. People talk about guilt like it leaves fingerprints. It doesn't if the person doesn't believe they've done anything wrong. I slipped out of bed quietly and went for another run. The air was cooler this time, early fall just beginning to announce itself. My feet hit the pavement in a steady rhythm, each step grounding me, pulling me further away from reaction and deeper into resolve. Anger hovered nearby like it was waiting for permission. I didn't give it any. Anger makes noise. I needed silence. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed with a new email. No subject line. Same sender. My stomach didn't drop this time. My pulse didn't spike. I simply opened it. We should talk. There's more you don't know. Below it, an address, a time. No pressure, no threat, just information. I didn't reply. Not yet. Timing matters when someone reaches out holding leverage. You don't rush toward it. You don't retreat from it either. You let it sit. The next 2 days passed like a slow-motion performance. Madison floated through dress fittings, brunches, and phone calls, glowing with the kind of certainty that only exists when someone believes the story is already written. Lauren was everywhere, clipboard in hand, voice sharp with authority, basking in the attention that comes with being indispensable. She loved the role, loved the power, loved being the axis everything spun around. If there was guilt anywhere among them, it was buried deep, untouched. Sunday morning, Madison left early for brunch with the bridesmaids. I told her I had work. That bought me 3 uninterrupted hours alone in the house. I watched the footage again, but this time I didn't watch Madison. I watched the background. Hotel staff moving cautiously, security hesitating before knocking. The subtle shift when authority realizes it's unwelcome. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it assumes. And that's when I understood something that reframed everything. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about character. Late that afternoon, I finally replied to the email. 1 line. Name the place. The response came back within minutes. A cafe just off Route T. Weekday afternoon. Come alone. Monday morning. Madison kissed me goodbye at the door and reminded me not to forget the floral tasting later. Big day, she said, smiling. Big week, I corrected gently. She laughed, assuming we meant the same thing. We didn't. I arrived at the cafe early, chose a table where I could see the entrance, ordered black coffee at exactly the scheduled time. A man walked in wearing a jacket over a hotel uniform polo, mid-40s, tired eyes, the kind of posture that suggests someone who's learned not to take up too much space. He spotted me immediately, no hesitation. He sat down across from me and exhaled deep, slow like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. "My name's Michael Turner," he said. "I worked night supervision at the hotel in Vegas. No handshake, just facts." He told me about the noise complaints, about knocking on the suite door, about being laughed at, about Lauren getting in his face, accusing him of harassment, threatening to go public. He told me the complaint was filed the next morning. HR didn't ask questions. 2 weeks later, he was gone. 10 years at that hotel, just like that. He didn't sound angry. That was the unsettling part. He sounded finished, like someone who'd already grieved and moved on, leaving only the facts behind. He slid a small drive across the table. "Security's footage auto backs up for 90 days, he said. I maintained the system. I asked him why he reached out. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "When I saw her engagement photos online," he said, smiling like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. "I couldn't stay quiet." "Revenge?" I asked. He shook his head. "Consequences." We talked for nearly an hour. He filled in gaps the footage couldn't. The comments, the laughter, the way Madison changed when she had an audience. "Not reckless," he said. "Cruel." That word stuck. He said the men didn't bother him as much as her enjoyment of watching people. Shrink staff, security, anyone who tried to intervene. That bothered him. That said something. When I left the cafe, the world felt sharper, louder, like someone had adjusted the focus. On the drive home, something else became clear. I hadn't once considered confronting Madison. Not because I feared her reaction, but because confrontation gives people control. And control was exactly what she thrived on. That evening, Madison called me into the living room to review ceremony music. She played clips, swaying slightly, eyes closed, imagining moments that now felt pre-written. I watched her carefully. The same smile from the video, the same ease. Two versions of the same person depending on who was watching. Lauren texted later asking me to approve a last-minute change to the bridal party entrance. I replied, "Whatever you think is best." She sent a heart emoji, called me a lifesaver. The irony almost made me laugh. That night, lying awake beside Madison, I thought about silence. How people mistake it for weakness. How they assume calm means ignorance. I thought about Michael Turner, going home without a job because someone else decided rules were optional. I thought about trust not as a feeling, but as a contract. And by the time sleep finally came, one thing was clear. Whatever happened next needed to be precise. The week tightened around us like a vice. Every hour scheduled, every minute accounted for. Madison thrived in it. She loved momentum, loved watching people orbit her plans. I stayed close, helpful, agreeable. The version of me everyone saw was steady, dependable. No one questions the steady man. They lean on him. Monday blurred into Tuesday. Vendor confirmations, handshakes, jokes about pressure. When someone laughed and said, "You must be feeling it now," I smiled and replied, "Pressure keeps you sharp." They laughed. I meant it. Tuesday night, after Madison fell asleep, I organized documents again. Not frantically, carefully. Labeled folders, cross-referenced names. Order creates distance. Distance keeps emotion from driving. Wednesday evening, dinner with her parents again. Robert raised a glass to tradition, legacy, trusting the future to the right hands. Susan squeezed my arm. Madison laced her fingers with mine under the table. I thanked them. Spoke about commitment, about respect, about honesty when no one is watching. Lauren avoided my eyes. Thursday was the rehearsal. The estate buzzed with movement. Flowers, chairs, music. Guests arriving early. Madison hugged me from behind during a quiet moment. "Everything feels perfect," she said softly. "I trust you completely." I kissed her hair, said nothing. Silence did what words couldn't. That night I barely slept, not from anxiety, from awareness. Every glance, every assumption, every certainty people wore like armor. They thought the story was already written. Friday morning came quietly. I woke before sunrise. No alarms, no rush. I dressed in jeans and a plain shirt, watched light creep across the city. Somewhere, stylists and caterers were already moving, convinced they were building perfection. I checked my phone once. Messages stacked like dominoes. I didn't open a single one. I drove without music. Let the hum of the road keep me company. The closer I got to the airport, the calmer I felt. Not numb. Clear. The kind of clarity that comes when you stop asking why and start accepting what is. At the terminal, no one recognized me. I checked in, past security, sat at the gate watching ordinary life unfold. My phone buzzed again. I turned it face down. As boarding was called, I thought about image versus integrity, about performance versus character. Madison loved the spotlight. She believed admiration was the same as trust. It isn't. Trust lives where no one is watching. I boarded the plane. Window seat. A flight attendant smiled. Business or pleasure? Neither, I said. I'm starting over. She nodded like she understood. When the wheels lifted off the ground, something loosened inside me. Not triumph. Not relief. Release. There's a lie people tell themselves about walking away. They imagine it's dramatic, explosive, that it comes with shouting, tears, slammed doors, and last words that echo. Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time it's quiet. And quiet is what unsettles people the most. I landed just after noon. Different city, different skyline, different air. I picked up a rental car, drove without urgency, and checked into a modest hotel near the water. Nothing luxurious, nothing symbolic, just clean, neutral, temporary. I showered, changed, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. Only then did I allow myself to open one voicemail. Madison's voice filled the room. At first it was light, confused, almost playful. Hey, where are you? Everyone's asking. Call me. The next one came 10 minutes later. Less playful. Then another. And another. Her voice tightened with each message. Confusion giving way to irritation. Irritation sharpening into panic. By the sixth voicemail, she was crying. Not softly. Angrily. Daniel, this isn't funny. You don't get to disappear. This is my wedding. My wedding. That word told me everything. I turned the phone off again. Not out of cruelty. Out of necessity. Because once you engage, you invite negotiation. And negotiation assumes something is still on the table. There wasn't. Back home, the absence spread faster than I expected. At first, people assumed there was a delay, a misunderstanding, a last-minute crisis. Lauren took charge immediately. She always did. She told vendors to hold, told guests to stay calm, told Madison I'd be there any minute. Control thrives on certainty. Lauren needed everyone to believe she still had it. Madison sat in the bridal suite in her robe. Phone clutched so tightly her knuckles turned white. Makeup untouched. Hair unfinished. She told herself there had to be an explanation. There always was. I was steady, reliable, predictable. Men like me didn't vanish. When the coordinator finally asked if anyone had heard from me directly, the room shifted. Not loudly. Subtly. The way air changes before a storm. Madison stopped pacing. Lauren stopped talking. Someone checked social media. Another tried calling again. Straight to voicemail. By the time Madison's father was brought in, the truth had begun forming its own shape. Robert didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He asked one question. Has anyone actually spoken to Daniel today? No one answered. Silence again. The first rumor surfaced within the hour. Then another. And another. In rooms full of people dressed for celebration, whispers replaced laughter. Guests checked watches. The musicians sat idle. Caterers hovered. $500,000 of perfection waiting for a groom who wasn't coming. Lauren pulled Madison into a side room. I wasn't there. But I can't imagine the conversation. Lauren telling her to breathe, telling her this could still be salvaged, telling her not to lose control. Lauren always framed things as logistics. Emotions were inconveniences. By late afternoon, phones started buzzing with notifications. Someone leaked something. A blurry screenshot. A headline forming faster than facts ever do. Groom missing before high-profile wedding. Then speculation. Then escalation. Then the footage. Because secrets never stay buried when enough people start digging. By evening, the narrative had flipped. Not all at once, but decisively. Questions turned sharper. Who was Madison Clark when no one was watching? Why did the footage exist? Why did so many people know before she did? And why did the groom walk away without a word? Madison didn't cry then. Not publicly. Shock replaced emotion, the kind that freezes your face while the world dissects you. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, family, PR advisors she'd never needed before. Lauren stayed glued to her side, but something had shifted. For the first time, Lauren wasn't directing. She was reacting. 2 days later, I turned my phone back on. Not to read messages, to send one email. It was short, factual, sent to Madison, her parents, and a single attorney. I'm aware of what happened in Las Vegas. I have documentation. I won't be participating in further discussion. Please direct all communication through counsel. No accusations. No explanations. Just a boundary. That email detonated. Madison called until her battery died. Then borrowed phones. Lauren sent messages oscillating between outrage and pleading. You're overreacting. This didn't mean anything. You're humiliating her. Humiliation. Interesting word. Her parents were quieter. Robert asked for a call. I declined. Susan sent a long email about family, forgiveness, and how everyone makes mistakes. I didn't respond, because mistakes are accidental. Patterns are deliberate. The attorney handled the rest. Annulment filings, asset separation, cease and desist letters. Efficient, unemotional. The law doesn't care about image, only actions. Weeks passed. The media cycle moved on as it always does. A new scandal replaced the old one. Madison's name faded from headlines, but not from conversations. Not in the circles where reputation is currency. There are things money can smooth over. Character isn't one of them. Lauren disappeared from Madison's side shortly after. Not dramatically, just gradually. The calls slowed. The visits stopped. People like Lauren don't stay when the spotlight dims. They need reflection. Months later, a mutual acquaintance reached out, carefully, like someone approaching a skittish animal. They told me Madison wasn't doing well, that she was confused, that she didn't understand how it all went so wrong. I listened, then said nothing. Silence again. Here's what people don't tell you about betrayal. The hardest part isn't losing the person. It's losing the future you already lived in your head. The holidays, the routines, the assumptions. Grief isn't loud. It's cumulative. But grief also clarifies. It teaches you what you tolerated, what you excused, what you ignored because it was easier than confronting it. Looking back, there were signs. There always are. I just didn't want to read them. I built a new life slowly, intentionally. No rush. New routines. New boundaries. I learned to trust patterns over promises, to value consistency over charm, to listen when something felt off instead of explaining it away. One evening, months later, I ran into Michael Turner again. Pure coincidence. Same city, same cafe chain. We recognized each other instantly. He looked lighter, healthier. He'd told me he'd found a new job, better hours, less stress. He thanked me. I told him he didn't owe me anything, because truth doesn't belong to anyone. It just waits. Before we parted, he said something that stuck. People think justice looks like punishment, he said. Most of the time it looks like exposure. He was right. I never confronted Madison. I never explained myself. I never gave her closure in the way people expect. And that bothered some people. They wanted a scene. They wanted tears. They wanted a verdict. But closure isn't something you give someone who broke the contract. It's something you give yourself. If you're listening to this and wondering whether silence was enough, ask yourself this: who lost more? The man who walked away with his integrity intact, or the woman who learned too late that admiration isn't the same as respect? If this story hit close to home, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me, was silence the right choice? And remember, the loudest statement you can make is knowing when to leave quietly.